Good afternoon and welcome to Common Ground, an inside look at Suffolk County. Now today, my guest is Winthrop Police Chief Terence Delehanty, who is an extraordinary gentleman on a wide array of fronts, but really because he is what I would call, a social advocate, looking to take care of the folks in Winthrop, looking to take care of the folks in Suffolk County. And so we're going to talk about some of the programs that his department is involved with some of the neighboring communities, particularly around drug prevention and criminality and the like. And so without any further ado, Chief.
Sheriff, always a pleasure.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for inviting me.
So talk to us about the collaboration, WROC, that collaboration between Winthrop, Revere, Chelsea, and Saugus, I believe, around this whole situation of drugs. Talk to me about that.
Over the last couple of years, we've followed the drug overdoses in Winthrop very closely. As no surprise to yourself, we saw a drastic increase, especially with opiate overdoses. The Oxycontins and the heroin specifically, for different reasons. Obviously, the Oxycontins, and there's my belief that there was no control coming out from the doctors level. I know the House Speaker and representatives on the Hill fought very hard to get some control and to get some accountability on the medical end, and it seems to have helped. On the other side, you have the heroin overdoses. People were going to rehab and getting clean, coming back out and using at the doses that they used to use at, and it would send them into cardiac arrest. So those are the matters that we were dealing with in Winthrop. But we also knew and realized that it was a regional problem, and that what affected Winthrop affected Revere, Chelsea, Saugus. And so we all got together and we developed a collaboration that's being funded. And the collaboration's working on how do we handle overdoses. We can investigate them, we can arrest them, and we know rather quickly that they'll be back out using or selling.
Right.
So what follow-up can we do with social services, the police, the fire, to kind of send out social workers to the next day to follow up with these individuals, to knock on the door, to give them alternatives. We might not reach them all, but if we reach a couple of them, that's a significant impact on the services in which we have to provide.
A couple of things about that. One is, I agree with you, the continuum of care. We find the same thing once folks exit the Sheriff's Department. If there's not that continuum of care, actually we see a lot of these guys recidivate. 46% of the guys that leave, generally within 6 months, are back. And the other thing that you said that I found very interesting is you said that you go out to find them. And we've also found that if we don't have that kind of situation where it's almost analogous to holding hands, if we don't go out, if we don't take that first step, oftentimes these folks won't take that step back to us. So I find it very interesting that you guys are actually going out, knocking on the door, seeing if they're okay, and if they're not, then you couple them with the social service agencies that can help them.
Revere Cares is the model that we want to implement in Winthrop. They've been doing this for some years, and I've always been impressed with their social services, going out, knocking on doors, and giving out the brochures and saying, we're here to help, we can help you. Because a lot of good people get caught up on using drugs. And whether it's a back injury, from one time we booked somebody, I went down and talked to my booking, it was a 45-year-old guy, no criminal record. How do you end up taking Oxycontin, shooting heroin? And it is, well, I got hurt. I'm an iron worker. I got hurt. My back. They prescribed me. I got hooked. And I went to heroin because it was cheaper. And these people were good, productive citizens prior to this. So what's the best way of getting them back on track over a long term? Because heroin is a very addictive drug and very difficult to kick. And we appreciate that and we understand that. But again, at the same token, we have an obligation to enforce the law and to make sure the neighborhoods are safe.
That's right.
So if we couple them together and saying, okay, we had an encounter and we can send a social worker, I think that's the best prescription, for lack of a better word, to help solve the social issue.
So now, this collaboration that you have, the funding for that, are you able to raise funds for that, or do you have to actually take that out of your respective budgets for that aftercare component?
Right now, it's the ROC is funded through Mass Health, through a grant through Mass Health. We have goals and objectives that we have to meet. And then we're hoping that we'll meet those goals and objectives on the first round, that we then can apply and say we need these social workers and these are why. And we believe that we can use these and share these assets in a regional fashion.
Right.
So, you know, every community gets the benefit of it, and it doesn't cost. Winthrop doesn't have enough overdoses to keep this person busy on a full-time level, but we do have enough overdoses to contribute to a full-time position or two full-time positions. You know, for the size of our community, 25 overdoses was about the average that we were seeing. And those are the ones we know about.
Yeah.
And then we had some people, you know, that were overdosed and died in backyards because they were left. Or because that's where they were and no one wanted to call the police.
Now, do you know if these are Winthrop residents or are these folks from outside of Winthrop, maybe some of the neighboring communities?
You know, we see on these overdoses are usually Winthrop residents.
They are Winthrop residents. Are they kids? Kids meaning that, you know, 16, 17, 18 to like say 24, 25.
We see it between the 18 and the 28 years old range to be the most prevalent. We have seen it on a few occasions and younger, but the average is in between that 18 and 28 range. But our drug issue and suppliers and users are from the region. And we know that. So one of the other follow-ups we did is we're working very closely with the City of Revere Police Department. We both have a detective that contribute to regional drug investigations. So before, when I first started on the job, we got credit for moving our crime. Not for solving it, for moving it. If we moved it to Revere, Revere took the hit. Winthrop got the credit. We did a great job. That person was still operating. So as we're sitting, we're looking at these regional issues, we said, well, let's get together and let's solve the regional issue, not just move it to our neighbors, because they're eventually coming back. So now we have set up 2 detectives, one from Winthrop, one from Revere. We were just in conversations last night with Chelsea, Everett, and Saugus to see if they would like to be added to our regional efforts. There's an interest amongst the chiefs to really get involved and do this. It's a force multiplier. Regionalization is a force multiplier. When I need them, they come and they help. When they need us, we go and we help. So we had just had a drug sweep that was one of the largest in Winthrop, where 8 heroin suppliers, street-level heroin suppliers were taken out. And you know, Revere, Chelsea, State Police, Winthrop, were all...
Everybody was involved?
Everyone came and helped us do that sweep. You know, that would be a budget breaker for me. If I brought the whole department in to do an 8-member sweep, 4 or 5 officers per a target, you know, that would be a budget breaker.
So here's the interesting thing about what you just said, though. Now, strength in numbers, and so you all are coming together to do this, and you do that with enough regularity, the word will get out that this is happening, but then that problem will move from this region to another region, you see. And so the hope would be that the other regions around the Commonwealth are all looking at this, you know, this whole dynamic around drugs and guns and violence and so on and so forth, so that we can eradicate this. Now, clearly, I mean, crime is always going to be here. The question is, how much can a community tolerate? You know, and and communities now can't tolerate anymore. They can't have enough. And I would think that in a community like Winthrop, which is pretty small to begin with, if you begin to have all of these kids and young adults and then getting a little bit older, folks getting involved with drugs, it's going to have a real negative effect on the entire community, would you say?
Oh, absolutely. Winthrop is a pretty unique community. We're geographically challenged. You know,
1.6 miles,
thereabouts, but you know, really limits us. We have the Revere side exit or entrance, and we have the East Boston exit or entrance. Strategically, it's wonderful for me. I can do a lot of things the City of Boston can't. The City of Revere can't, because you know, we can put a camera on each end. There you go. There you go. And we get everyone coming and going. That's right. So we're unique in that, but also we're unique in circumstances that you're there for a specific reason. And we follow that. And to be honest with you, without the help of the Boston Regional Intelligence Center over the last 5 years, my job would be much more difficult. You know, Commissioner Evans and now, prior to that, Commissioner Davis, you know, got us all together to contribute intelligent information from all the communities. So we do follow what happens in Revere, and what happens in Somerville, what happens in Winthrop, what happens in Boston.
So you know who all the players are.
We all know who all the players are and where they're living. So if Winthrop residents in Boston, we know They got arrested in Boston now. Before, we would never know that unless we ran the criminal history, and we need a reason to run that if they were under investigation, say. But now we get the Boston Regional Intelligence report each day, and we contribute it on a daily basis. It's a significant help to beyond just our region.
Right.
And, everyone contributes to that.
And when you talk about funding, getting grants, everything is going towards this data-based initiative, having hard and cold statistics and data that supports the successes or the failures. And my understanding is that when you have this, when granting agencies and opportunities come along, they want to see what you have on paper, to see what you've done, how well it's worked, and then they are then more likely to bring forth with more funding for a second round or a third round.
Absolutely, and they want to know who you're working with now. It's gone to, they really want to fund these regional bigger projects. Okay. And that would be almost impossible for Winthrop to get a grant just for follow-up on 25 drug overdoses. Yes, significant for Winthrop. Right. Not downplaying it. One is too many. But the State Department of Health would not probably fund us. But if we get Revere and Chelsea and Saugus and Winthrop together, look, this is a big project. They have all common goals. And so let's put our money there. So it helps significantly in securing grants. Just like the UASI region gets, Homeland Security funding, and we get some of that as well, and we're grateful for that because we can do a lot with those funds and those tools that we normally wouldn't be. It's hard for Winthrop to come up with and fund me for a $25,000 surveillance camera, but it's easy when you get into these regional investigations, and you can provide documentation, how many you've done. What's the closing rate on the investigations? And we have a very high closing rate on all our Category 1 crimes, which we're at 98.5%. We're very proud of that statistic. There's only a few cases that have gone unsolved, and a lot of times it's because the victim's not being cooperative.
How big is your force?
My force right now is 34 police officers, and then we have 13 part-timers. When I first came on the job back in 1994, we had 42 full-timers. Okay,
so you're down about 8 or so.
We're down about 8,
right?
But if you look at history, recent history, and we're actually up 4 from where I took over as police chief.
Okay, with the part-timers?
No, we were at 30.
Oh, so how long have you been the police chief?
Right now, time flies, almost 4 years now.
And how long have you been on the force?
Since 1994.
Oh, you said when you came on in 94.
So, but we've gone backwards. They laid the police chief off, and I was the lieutenant in charge for a while, and then they made me the police chief. So we've come through some hard times in Winthrop, and we were making decisions. Okay, do we close at 2 in the morning, and between 2 and 7, or do we have staffing to do that? Wow. Because the budget cuts kept on coming and kept on coming, and what do you do when you're faced? And the towns people had to make some tough choices, and we're proud of them. They supported us. They came through this, and now we have a surplus and free cash, so we're able to add. And the town manager and the town council have been great with me as the chief, and on adding some regional resources as well as some direct additional officers, a school resource officer. They've added to the detective unit for the regional drug investigations. They gave me a detective last year. Mid-year, which is almost impossible and wanted to do, they increased my budget for a school resource officer. Because as I'm sure you're aware, that some of these unfunded mandates, the bullying law, to be specific, put a lot of burden back on the local police department and the school district. But who was going to do it? We had, limited resources on the day shift, 2 to 3 cruisers, 2 officers inside, and they were getting overburdened with these bullying investigations. So the council, we went before them, explained that was an unfunded mandate, and that put the burdens back on us, and they came to the table and said, we'll fund it.
It's important, particularly with the kids. What do you have, 1 middle school, 1 high school? How does that work?
Right now we have, everything's changing in Winthrop. We have 2 elementaries, a middle and a high school. Okay. Next year we're going to have 2 elementaries and a high school.
What's happening with the middle school?
The high school is being torn down. We're building a new high school. A 2.5 override just took place. Very exciting times. They're going to have a nice new high school, middle school combination building. Nice. But that's 2.5 years away. So we have to bring people back to the middle school so they can tear down the high school.
So the high school is in the middle school facility?
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
while the new
and
school
then
is...
the high schools, middle school students will be spread out over the elementary schools. So some of the middle school kids will go back to the Cumming school. Cumming school kids will then go back to our pre-K through second grade at the Fort Banks, Gorman Fort Banks School.
Have they broken ground yet?
They haven't. The design, it was just got approved in November. The vote was in November. We just got approved. The design looks beautiful.
Nice,
We're very excited. The kids will have a nice new environment.
Well, you need, for the 21st century, you need some of the new bells and whistles. You know, some of the schools in Boston and probably maybe out in Winthrop, but date back to the early 1910, 1920, 1930s. You know, I mean, they're serviceable, well, because they have to be, but you need some of the new bells and whistles, for a 21st century society. Yeah. And all that comes with it.
And I think that, it'll renew the efforts of education. It'll give them, some wind under their wings. Yeah. And I think the kids will enjoy it because it'll be a new building and it'll be all tech savvy building and they'll have what they need. Yeah. The
parents will love it too. Yeah. I mean, they really will love it. Now, let me ask you about another collaboration that you have. It's called Health Matters. What is Health Matters? What is that set up to do?
What we did is, again, through the town manager's office, is they really got together with Revere to get the two health departments together and collaborate on some other grants and to find out what are the health issues in Winthrop. Okay. So, they interviewed all the stakeholders and they've done reports based on that. Mass General's been involved in this investigation of what are the health issues. The major health issues we're talking. Right. Why is there domestic violence and what the causes of domestic violence are, and how are we addressing it as a community? Are we doing a sufficient job? Again, the overdoses and the alcohol piece. I think people downgrade the consumption of alcohol. I'm a strong believer, and you probably know better than I, but a lot of this is learned behavior. Even to when you take your prescription drugs, you take it in front of your kids and it makes you feel better. Well, they equate that as they feel good on that, so let me try some. Yeah. Alcohol, both of my in-laws are recovering alcoholics. They've done a great job and they help other people out, and so we know what the effects are, alcohol. Yeah. And so we don't show our children alcohol. We don't drink in front of them, we don't have it in the house. Right. This is the message we want to send to them. And I think that's important for the audience to understand that they could help us significantly, make us a healthier community by doing these little things that we don't even think about. We just take our blood pressure medicine in the morning, our cholesterol medicine. We don't think what we're doing in front of them and how they're perceiving that. So we're looking at that through the health departments, and they're really doing a nice job when interviewing everyone that has a stakeholder, that is a stakeholder in Winthrop, and to drill down on these health issues and what's the causes of them, and then how can we as a community move forward and solve them. Obesity was another big issue that they were drilling down on. We have a traffic problem in Winthrop in the morning and in the afternoon.
That's right, getting in and out of there. I've been caught in it. Right.
It's the school traffic.
Yeah.
When I was young, no one drove me.
Right.
Handed a pair of sneakers and showing the door. But all 7 of us walked together. Right. So we had our own team. So all 7 of us would walk, and so you wouldn't. You didn't have those issues when I was in school, and I realized that. But now everyone, through awareness or through, they want to drop their kids off at the front door. That doesn't make us healthier either, as we know.
But these kids have got to get out there with more exercise and running around and that whole thing. But that also speaks to a cost savings. If you're looking at health issues and what's causing people to get ill and sick and the whole deal, you figure out what the problem is and then you attack that problem. Right. And at the back end, that'll save you some money. I want to move on to what you have down here as Lockup. And I know that you and I have talked about a regional lockup for Suffolk County. At the Sheriff's Department, we're looking at a way where we could work with the police departments in Chelsea, Winthrop, and Revere, the municipalities that we work within, to help the police to, if you arrest someone for whatever reason, drop them off. We do all the intake. That's what we do every day anyway. And your officers can get back home, get back to the street, get back to what they have to do. What's your thoughts on the importance of having a regional lockup? How would it impact your community?
First of all, this is imperative. And this is not an option. This is not a luxury. It's imperative to take the lockup outside of police departments, local police departments. Right. Because we do a little of everything, and we try to do the best we can with everything. Right. Dispatch is the same way. It's a specialized position now. Watching prisoners and locking them up and keeping them for a long period of time is a specialized effort. And we're stretched in that respect. We've been sued for deaths that have happened in our police department. Not a proud statement from me, and I'll admit that. Those happened prior to my administration, but I was a member of the police department then. Right. So we have to learn from our past behaviors. There was another major lawsuit in a community in Suffolk County that's cost them millions of dollars. Yeah. So we don't want that litigation. Right. We want to get it into the hands of the people who do it every day, who are specializing in the lockup world and transport them. Right. And to get rid of them, it limits our liability. It frees up my officers.
I was just about to ask.
Yeah, I can get back to the street.
Right.
I can get my lieutenants and sergeants can get back to correcting reports.
And you probably don't have a lot of space to hold a lot of folks. Also, just say you have, a raucous weekend, and you have to bring in 10, 20 people. That could overwhelm your facility.
We get 4 male cells, a juvenile cell, and a female cell. Other than that, we got to transport out to other agencies. Yeah. So it really makes sense. Florida's been doing this for a good 25, 30 years. This is a model that's been worked well in other communities and other states, and it should have been here a long time ago. I know we've discussed it. Many different administrations have discussed this, but this is a must-do. Yeah.
We're
counting on you.
But that's a two-way street though, because when you go up to the Hill to ask for resources to get things done, if you come up en masse, i.e. the Sheriff's Department along with Winthrop, Chelsea, Revere Police, MBTA, and others, state police, I think it resonates more. With the legislators that, really move the dollars around up there, because I agree with you, it is imperative. And on so many fronts, it's imperative. One, like you just said, for the liability issue. 2, just for the safety issue, getting your folks back out on the street. 3, let us do what we do anyway every day, 24/7, 365. That's what we do. We specialize in that. Yeah. And so just when you talk about collaborations, the collaborative effort of all of these law enforcement entities working together. So when I say it's a two-way street, as we talk amongst ourselves, in your world you can talk to the House Speaker, and others can talk to the Senate President, and they can talk to the legislators in their area throughout Suffolk County. We were just up at the State House last week and spoke with the chair of Ways and Means for the House side. And we're going to do the same with the Senate side, just to say, look, it just makes so much sense. And oh, by the way, we have a building on our campus right now that's being used for ICE, for the folks that they're going to deport back to their home countries. But if this immigration bill that's going through, winding its way through the Senate down in D.C. ever goes through, those numbers will zero out. And I don't want to be sitting there with this big, large shell of a building when we could be using it for good purposes.
Yeah, and it reduces the liability greatly for every community. Boston is a lot shorter to travel to your facility than we would, but still I can get an officer in and out in probably 35 minutes, where my booking takes longer than 35 minutes. So, really, if you look at that aspect of it, my booking, because we do about 500 prisoners a year, and so, it's slow if you're not doing it every day and every hour of the day. Yeah. Some supervisors are slower than others. Yeah. So that you've got to take that into account, that what's the time savings on just the booking alone?
Exactly.
That we can get officers back to answering calls.
Exactly. And you were right. This has been talked about a lot. I believe it began with the bill by State Rep Gino Flaherty way back when. I know that Sheriff Cabral, my predecessor, now Secretary Cabral, also looked at this pretty seriously, and I'm picking up that ball and trying to run down the field with it. So listen, Chief, we're out of time. This went by so fast. There's so many other things.
I have to get one thing.
Go for it.
August 5th, 2014.
Oh yeah.
National Night Out.
National Night Out.
We're doing it in Winthrop again this year.
Oh, good.
So we'd love to have you participate.
Good.
And your officers participate.
Oh no, absolutely.
I'll send you a letter in March. But we have a great time over there. Last time we did it, we were able to get the Secret Service out with the presidential limousine. Yeah. So that was a big hit in Winthrop, and we'll look forward to trying to convince them to bring it back out and to have that as a show boat. There.
I love that, a National Night Out, actually, because it gives us an opportunity to get around. With our officers, and we send some of our personnel out to do face painting for the kids and fingerprinting for the parents that want that, and some other things that really help those communities out, and just to, in a relaxed environment, just to, you know, share a soda pop or a story and that sort of thing. It's a real good
It's a
thing.
great event. It's Lieutenant Scapa, you know, was the lead person in the Winthrop Police Department for a long time. He's propelled off of buildings and has done it all with National Night Out. So hopefully we can get the big crowd back. You know, we have a lot of people that contribute food and drinks and everything. So
the only thing about that
we know
day,
you're stretched thin,
but
we
we'll be there.
would love to,
have
we'll
you at the
we'll
definitely
and,
thank you for the
and
invitation.
to assist us.
We'll be there. The only thing about National Night Out, it's generally historically been the hottest day of August.
Yeah.
I mean,
I wish they would moved it to October myself.
All right, Chief. Well, look, we got to run, but I really do appreciate you coming on. I'd love to have you back again sometime.
My pleasure.
Soon. Okay.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Okay. All right, folks, we're going to go to a break, and please do stay tuned. On the other side, we have much more very interesting and meaningful conversation coming up. Stay tuned.